Good morning, everybody. Wow. You all are awesome. Thank you for being here this morning at 9:30. Now, I know we all got our computers and stuff like that. And the thing with this presentation, this is one of those ones you can go back and look at. And we try our best to make this as interactive as possible. So I know you're in different locations, but look, we're here to learn from each other. And there's going to be some questions that I need you all to help me answer because we want to know about you and we want to know about what your district is or in the process or haven't started. We want to know where all of you are. And that helps us as we go through this process too, because I'm telling you, we're all learning this together and it's pretty exciting. So we're going to take a look. Our presentation today is sharing our story one portrait at a time. But I've got a quick question. First of all, let's see if we can get this thing to work. Now we got to have a bell ringer, right? If we're going to come in. So we got to make sure we're in class. So here's my first one, and this one's pretty easy. And I should be able to hear everybody. So tell me your title, where you're from, all that other good stuff. Awesome. Where you from? Man, Bullitt County's. Hey, listen, I got to hear your guys the other day. Bullitt County's rocking some stuff out. Pretty cool with the L3. Where you from? What do you do? Awesome. Keep on coming around through there. Great. Next. Oh, you're good. Got both of you at once. Next. I'm loving it. We got a little bit of everybody. Cool. Keep on coming really quick. Yeah, he's fancy. We like Neil. Miss Denise. And Miss Rebecca. All right, so we pretty well. Oh, you just come in. Tell me where you're from. Awesome. So, hey, we know each other. We're all comfortable now. I got another question for you. Why do you do what you do? All right, you got about 30 seconds. Now, if you're sitting by yourself, you're either going to have to turn around, and I'm going to give you about 30 seconds for each one of you. Oh, wait a minute. I forgot you. Thank you. We got about 30 seconds. So, really quick, I want you to find somebody and I want you to tell them, why do you do what you do? Ready? Go. Yeah. Conferences, I run videos. So I like teacher. Okay. Ended up in technology. Oh, right on. I started out as a musician. Awesome. All right. Have you switched? So everybody's had a chance to tell everybody what you do because this is super important because we're going to come back to that question here in just a little bit. Okay. So what we're going to look at in our learning targets today, number one, we all have a story. Okay. Every person in this room has a story. And honestly, it's probably one of the coolest and most interesting things we will ever hear because every story is different. How are we going to share our story? And is our story worth 1,000 words? You always hear that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, we're going to flip that a little bit. We're going to talk about stories as well. So, how many of you in your house or grandma's house or great grandma's house had one of these walls? You know, when you walk through the hallway, there's like 100 pictures on the wall. Y'all have that? I know I did. Now listen, we're from the mountains. All right. If you ain't had that, you're missing out. Okay. But they didn't really do like photograph books. They put pictures on the walls because, when I go to Granny's house, it would be like I would go, Granny, who is this? And she'd be like, oh, honey, come here and let me tell you their story. They're talking points. And these are things that I think we all have to think about because sometimes our districts forget about the picture wall. And that's something we have to keep in mind because if we're not going back and we're not seeing students that have went through our district, we're missing something. And that's what we need to look for today. So I want you to be thinking about questions. I want you to think about how do you do that? How do you make it work? Because this picture wall you're going to see over this presentation, this picture wall is going to change. And things are hopefully going to get clearer and clearer as we go along. So before I get into that, let me introduce a couple of people to you and myself. And actually, I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But we tag team this, and we all have a passion to see kids be showcased in great ways. So I'm going to turn it over and let them introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Amy Newsome, and I'm Mike's partner. We're DLCs for Floyd County.
I'm Jennifer Mills, and I'm the DLC in Knox County, and I do a little bit of work for the University of the Cumberlands, but Mike and Amy were gracious enough to loop me into this. So I'm just learning from them as much as anything, but they're fantastic.
Listen, we love working together. She has added so much to us and challenged us, and it's awesome. And you know, she does have her PhD, right? You're a doctor. She's Dr. Jennifer. And my name is Mike Bell. I'm a digital learning coach for the Floyd County school system. But the cool part was a long time ago, 28 years ago, I started as a music teacher. And my passion is music. And what I really felt, what was amazing was when I switched to be a DLC, it worked the same way. The way I taught in the classroom, and Amy's like, yeah, he's a freak over there. So we kept that going into our DLC program and we love it. So, why is our story important? So, why is your story important? We all have one. Why is it important? Now, you all introduced yourselves. So, here we are. I got to have help. Okay. Why is your story important? It makes you unique. Why is your story important? Way in the back. Why is your story important? All the way back. Yeah. Now I've got another question. Why is your students important? Why is their story important? Exactly. Provides an emotional connection. When we talk and we tell our stories, I was watching you all a while ago. The guy that was sitting here right before he just walked in, we started talking and I said, why do you do what you do? I love technology, blah, blah, blah. I was telling him mine. And guess what we found out? He's a musician. I'm a musician. We immediately had some kind of connection. So a while ago, when you were doing your talking to each other, did you see a connection either in the job you did or something you shared or something like that? That's the first thing. And guess what? That's what our kids want to do as well. Because I know where we come from, it's high poverty. And some of them, for them to make a connection with somebody that may be in a different situation than them and they have similar things, they validate themselves. And for them, they're like, you know, hey, this is pretty cool. So they want to be heard. Provides meaning for them. Purpose, you know, what's the ultimate question? What's your purpose in life? Man, that's a hard one to answer because sometimes you don't know until after it's already happened. And sometimes you still don't believe it. So these are things we have to continue to instill in our students. But this one right here gets me probably every time. It provides value. You see up there, I've got 10, 80, 10, that wonderful bell curve. right? We have 10% of our students. Now, has everybody either been in the classroom or around kids where you're teaching them something? 10% of those kids are going to do it on their own. Most of them don't need help. They're going to be fine. You give it to them, it challenges them, they go. There's another 10% of those kids that maybe don't know how to listen and don't know how to sit in class, and maybe they just struggle. And the thing is, I bet you know all of their names. But what about the 80% that just come every day, do what they're supposed to do, make good grades, stay out of the office, and don't cause any problems at all? Why don't we know who they are? It's not, look, how many times have I beat myself up over this, Amy? We missed it because those are the kids that fall through the cracks. In 24 years in the classroom, I am ashamed to say that I lost too many kids. But the good part is there's a way to fix it. And we're starting to see it happen. And I know you all mentioned Bullitt County and different places. This process of talking about Portrait of a Graduate and different things, of showcasing our kids, is one of the best ways to know the 80 that we're missing. Now let's reflect. Why do you do what you do? Are you coming in and punching the clock? Are you coming in to change lives? There's only two options in education. Only two. And you're like, no, Mike, no. It don't matter if you are in IT. It don't matter if you are in food service. It don't matter if you're in transportation. It don't matter if you're in the classroom. If you're working in a school system, you got two options. You're there to change their lives, or you're there punching the clock. Don't fool yourself, because that's when we start losing the 80, and we can't do that. To make a meaningful and valuable connection to someone else. That's what we want to do. We want to touch lives. And sometimes all it takes is to say, hey, show me your portfolio. You mean you want to see my portfolio? Yes, I want to see it. You really want to see it? Mom and dad don't even want to see it. I want to see it. Keep that in mind as we go. Now, here's the ultimate question. I'm going to do a check around. Have you shared your story with your students? Some of us. Have you? Have you really shared your story? You know, I have 4 kids, and we were blessed through adoption. And I got a chance to share of traveling around the world. And when I started sharing that venture that we've been on, I had a lot of the kids look at me just a little different. Man, what's this guy's story? Because just like Theodore Roosevelt said, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't mean just care about the subject you teach. It's about life in general, and it's about them. It's about the 80% and knowing. So keep that right there as you continue to go through this process. So here's our question. I'm going to throw some around the room. What opportunities do your kids in your districts have to share? Doesn't matter if they're doing Portrait of a Graduate, digital portfolio, it doesn't matter. How can they share their story in your district? Ready? Go. Mhm. And I'm so glad you brought that up. And listen, what is so important, and I'm going to throw this to Cece. Cece, besides our, what ways are your kids sharing, showcasing who they are? Mm-hmm. 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 Good. Awesome. How do your kids share? Okay. Cool. Awesome. How do your kids share? I know you know how your kids share. I'm asking people I don't know. How do your kids share? Cool. Awesome. It's so important that every person in the district, no matter if you are lunch lady, bus driver, custodian, everybody should know how their kids can share. It's super important because those people, we got to get all of our stakeholders involved in our kids' lives. And how awesome would it be if your custodian go, "Hey man, you've been working on your portfolio? What'd you put in there for creative communicator?" Now we're talking a new language that now kids know. Every person in my district knows what this is. Jennifer, how do you all share and let students share who they are in Knox County?
Well, it's an ongoing effort. And I would say it's different at every school. We do have a district-wide initiative, just like Floyd County, to implement digital portfolios. We are not as far along as Floyd County is. We're a couple of years behind, probably. We don't have the vision. And I've been working with Mike and Amy on this for several months, and I'm just sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, Mike, this is so inspiring. And I've been working with them, and this is just every student has some way to share, but sometimes I think there's two things that we encounter as in our district and across the world, really, is not every student shares equally or has the same accessibility to ways that we try to share. And digital portfolios, because every student has one, then every student gets a voice. And then I think there's the other group of people that we don't get, and that's the ones who are afraid to share. And digital portfolios helps tie all of that together. So yes, we are working on that in Knox County, but I can't say, each school is different. Each school has a different level of implementation, and that's where the district focus is so important.
And I think everybody in this room could almost say the exact same thing. We're at so many different levels, but the good part is we're all working towards the same goal. And we just may be at different spots, but if we're doing this and we want our kids to really be seen, this is the things we have to do. Now, if you notice, our picture wall is starting to come into focus. So keep an eye on that as we move forward. How will we share our story? So we're going to tell you a little bit about our story. And like I said, some of you, your story is like already like in chapter 10. So we're like in like chapter 3 of our story, okay? Back in July, summer of 21, these wonderful things were presented and said, "Hey, we have a new graduation requirement, and they're called the tech standards." And we were like, "Hey, yeah, this is cool. This is cool." And I was like, "Whoa, pull the reins back on this one. How in the world are we going to I don't see anything here on how are we going to measure this or how this looks in our district or anything to what in the world are we doing?" So I went to my IO at the time, which is in this room, and we discussed, and we had batted around a couple ideas, and she had been looking at some stuff, but we hadn't really settled on anything. And she goes, "Why don't you call somebody else and let's get their input, and then we'll go from there." So the other person that I called's in this room, and I'm not picking them and pointing them out, okay? So we started having this conversation, and I was like, "I'm hearing you." Now I'm an old guy, so I've been around a while. I'm hearing you, and I'm like, this collection thing sounds just like program review. And I heard, "Mike Bell, shut your mouth." I said, "Okay, yes, ma'am." When I started to think through this, the collection of evidence was similar, except it wasn't my job to collect the evidence now. Whose job was it? The student's job to collect their own evidence. So I was like, okay, first of all, the big win, I don't have to go buy any tubs. Yes. Then, second was like, how do we do this? We're starting to come out of COVID, but we also keep this digital format. Go back to my CEO, told her that I got my hand spanked, and I can't say those unfortunate words again. But we laughed. We have had a good time about it. And when we went back, Miss Denise was like, "Hey, what about a digital portfolio?" I was like, "Digital portfolio? Yeah, I did one a few months ago." She goes, "Yeah, you think it's feasible?" So we started processing the whole thing, and we were like, "It's feasible. We can do this." And then we started thinking, "Oh gosh, something new for teachers. How's that going to roll?" So we had to come up with a process that basically one button, it started the framework. And that's what we did. We built a template for every grade level. However, it was only a template. When the kid hit the button, it automatically created a Google site and it saved it in their drive. From that point on, they were responsible to curate, to make it pretty, to bling it out, and make it theirs. These are some of the portfolios that were created the first year. Miss Jennifer, I'll let you talk about on your end a little bit about how Knox County, how we work together there a little bit on the digital portfolios.
I'm not quite sure. I'm not sure what you're wanting me to talk about.
Just that you all use the same format,
We
right?
do. I stole all of Mike's ideas.
Did not.
I did. Because, like we all do in technology, everyone is fantastic and shares all of their work. And that's just the most amazing thing. And he shared his template with me. We last year had our digital learning coaches in each school create the digital portfolios for every student in the district, which was a huge undertaking. And I can't say it was consistently done across the board. We'll talk about that in my presentation later this afternoon, where there were successes, where there were failures. We don't have the product that you're seeing. And so that's, as you always find ways that you can improve. But we do have the digital portfolio evidence in process. It has been, like you said, for a lot of our teachers, one more thing. So that's what we're looking at helping them with for next year as well.
And we fought the same battle. So we broke ours into a 4-year implementation process. So in year 1, we started with seniors, year 2, 9 through 12. This is year 3, we're 6 through 12. And then next year we're going K-12. Through this process, Amy and I have spent time doing PLCs with every teacher in the district. Amy, tell them a little bit about that PLC time that we had with the portfolios and different things.
So we just started out at the beginning of the year, Mike and I, like we should get out there and make sure that everybody knows because we need to communicate this to the teachers. They need to know what's expected of them. And also that it's not just one more thing. The way that we presented it to them and the way that it actually is, it's stuff that you're already doing. So
That was key, wasn't it, Amy?
right. So when we started talking to the teachers, we asked them, we said, here is a creative communicator. And we said, what are some ways that your students communicate in your classroom? They started telling us, oh, well, guess what? You're already doing that. This is just to document that. It doesn't have to be done in your classroom. It can be things that students do at home. If we have kids that like love to work on four-wheelers, motorcycles, things like that. They are being innovative. They are using their computational thinking skills and that kind of thing. So let those kids showcase themselves and be uniquely themselves. And it's things that you're already doing. All you have to do is put a name on it.
Exactly. So we started the conversation to get them to understand empowered learner. We started teaching the kids, but we wouldn't let the teachers leave the room. They were like, you mean I can't go copy papers? I said, nope. So the first year, and this was a couple years before Amy come in, joined us, Bobby Akers and I, our first two DLCs actually went into the classroom and we taught kids with the teachers being in the room. So they would get a better understanding of what we're looking for. But this is an opportunity to learn terminology that these kids are going to have to know for other things. Yes, Mr. Denise. That was probably one of the most eye-opening things we probably saw. So here, and I'm gonna tie that in. How to implement and monitor part of the IOP process. This isn't something separate. This is something that we should have been doing anyways. And what Denise was talking about, we found with our alternative program that this showcasing kids that never had a voice. And for some of the teachers, they were like, I learned things that I never knew about my kids because I got to talk to them and hear their story. And I'll share one of those stories here in just a minute as we go through there. But we actually went in and we looked, how are we going to implement it? And then how are we going to monitor it? So it's sort of a double scoring system. The school scores it on their end, and then it comes to us and we score it on our end as well. So they're getting double feedback from their process. And just like she said, it was an eye opener for some of these advisors. We actually put this in. We built our own IOP platform. So we didn't buy ACES or Zello or any of those because what we were finding. Let me ask this question. Okay, how many of you have like worked with IOPs? Okay, cool. What'd you do with the data? Nothing. What'd you do with the data? Why? What'd you do with the data? Guess what? We did too. We didn't do nothing with it. Oh, go over there and do that so we can check off your IOP. Oh my goodness. We totally messed it up. We wasn't taking the data back. So we found 6 pieces of data that we wanted. We wanted to know that we wanted them to investigate their personality. We wanted them to know their own learning style. How many kids are we doing an injustice because we're teaching them wrong? Yeah, probably half. We're teaching them wrong because you know what? We're teaching them probably as auditory learners, and guess what they are? Tactile learners. We're messing it up. And we did. I'll be the first to tell you. I had my two oldest boys. Do you know in 13 years of being in school, how many times I got to see their IOP? 0. Do you know how many times somebody said, hey, did you know that your son really wants to be a preacher? None. Nobody told me. Now, did I see a lot at home? Yeah. But guys, we're missing a great opportunity with ILPs because the digital portfolio is the showcase of all of that. That's what the digital portfolio is. It falls right into that ILP. So you can't have one without the other, because if you are, you're doing too many things, because it all goes together. And then how did we assess it? We did it through a Google form that would go through, check it all off. We'd go back and we would review that, especially for our seniors, because this wasn't something to check a box. This is something they could take with them. How many colleges now are going, hey, do you have something we can see, a portfolio? Yeah, they just built one. Yes, Miss Rebecca. That's why we do what we do with the digital portfolio.
And Mike,
Yes.
if you don't care, I'll jump in. I will say that pulling it together, the ILP and the digital portfolio is critical for successful implementation. That is where we got the most kickback because it goes together, it streamlines, and instead of double working everyone, it has a purpose. And if you have looked at any recent job postings on any of the major sites, you will see that a resume is not the only way to showcase for an interview. And anymore, if a student doesn't have a portfolio of their work, of their examples, any field, because I've recently done a lot of research on this, this is what they have to have. So we are doing them a disservice if we do not move along these lines.
Great feedback. Yes, ma'am. Sure. Yeah. Mhm. Mhm.
I don't think it's a new concept, but it's a new expectation. We have definitely transitioned away from, you still have to have the CV or the resume, but that's not enough if you hope to get where you want to be.
Yeah, and you said you completed yours in college and understand that it's not new, but it's the first time that we're having our children do it. So now we're doing it in high school. Well, we're doing it all the way down to kindergarten, actually, but now they're getting that experience. So think by the time that they graduate from, they've started doing this from the time they're in kindergarten to they graduate high school. So for 13 years, they've been building this portfolio. It's not like building one in a few months or even a year. It's 13 years worth of what they've been doing. And you can see it really shows who they are. You can see their journey, how they grew. And through education, you can see how it's not like taking that one snapshot picture. And I think that's where my heart is, that you're not just giving them that standardized assessment, but here you're seeing their growth throughout their schooling.
Yeah. And and that's the good part. All we're doing is showing you how we're implementing it with everything else that we've got. So it's not a new concept at all. I mean, but the thing is how are we utilizing that concept, that portfolio? And that's what we want to look at today. So a little bit more about our story. In 2022, we became a member of the local laboratories of learning. We were cohort 3. And I think Bullitt County was like in cohort 1, maybe Shelby County. There was, man, I tell you, we had such a good time the other day in Frankfurt listening to your all's district. It was really good. But we became one, and it really threw some challenges to us. But the cool part was it wanted us to start building competencies. Okay. And the neat part was this. How many times in education do you get frustrated because they give you something new every single year. Gosh, isn't that frustrating? You're like, I was just getting good at this and now you give me this. Well, one thing that we really looked at was how do we not do that? How do we implement, yes, something else that needs to be done, but make the connection back to what is already happening? So that's where we spent a lot of our time. Last year in May, all of our committee, our cohort committee got together and we started looking at what we already had. And the one thing that kept coming up, they were like, man, we've got these tech standards that the kids are already using in their portfolio, and they're really similar to what we're seeing. Is there any way, instead of trying to teach the kids something new, that we just build competencies for the tech standards and turn them into our portrait of a graduate? And at the time, we were like, yeah, that's awesome. Let's do it. But the cool part was this. We got a chance to take that and let our kids start sharing in that same month of the cool things they had been doing with their portfolio. They were now standing in front of this committee of business leaders and teachers and parents and their peers, and they were showcasing all of these amazing skills that they were using. But the other good part about that is this: just by building the digital portfolio in this website format, it covers all 7 standards because they're using every tech skill to develop this portfolio. And once we started sharing that with a lot of our teachers, I was like, wow, okay, we get it. We can do this. And then 2 months later, in July 23, look what came out. Has everybody seen this one yet? Portrait of a Learner? All right. Now, if you haven't, you need to get it. I got a link on there for you. It'll take you to the guidance document. But do you see anything that looks a little familiar? Yeah. If you knew the tech standards, you're seeing them up here again. And I'm sitting there going, why didn't they just use the tech standards? That's a whole lot of extra work for something that had already been done. So Miss Amy, this summer, we did a lot of work. And she goes, let's put them both side by side and see how close we are. These were the 7 competencies that our district came up with from the cohort meeting. And look at all the similarities to the Portrait of a Learner. And the best line in the guidance document is, your district has autonomy. We were like, yes, we don't have to change anything. It actually worked. So if you notice, we have 7. Those 7 tech standards, they have 6. They sort of mashed in some in there, but there was one that we felt we needed to really keep separated. Why should we keep the digital citizen component separate from the others? Even though there is a citizen component in there, but why is this digital component so important? Let's play a little game. This is my favorite game I love to play. This past weekend, I need you to figure out for me how many hours you spent in the digital world. Mike's already won. He's shaking his. So ready? You got 30 seconds. Do your math. How much time did you stream, listen to music, podcasts, videos, scroll? Actually, you do a lot more than what that phone tells you. So how many? How many hours did you have, Mike? 35. That's probably right. How many hours did you have? How many hours did you have? You may have been outdoors this weekend. It may have been pretty. How many hours did you have? 7? Now, did you look at your phone or did you figure it out? I'm with you. It works.
Were you streaming music on your trip?
Yeah,
That's where
digital.
she counted.
Oh, okay.
So, guys, listen, if we don't make this priority of teaching our kids, we live in 2 worlds. We live in the real world, we live in the digital world. And right now, unfortunately, which one's more dangerous? The digital world. Because one click, one wrong comment, you're in trouble. Keep that in mind as you go through your process. So we have to have buy-in from all administrators and teachers. Teachers already got the guards up and they're already panicking that you're going to bring them something new to do and more work. Stop it. You need to walk in with a plan and go, look, I'm going to show you how to connect these dots. Amy and I have been working for the past 6 months on this document. And I love this because somebody said this the other day, and I wish I knew which school system it was. We are a standards-driven district. Other districts are competency-driven districts. That's where I want to be. I want our district to be competency-driven, not standard-driven. Okay. But until we get there, we had to do something for our teachers. That's what DLCs do. Our job is to help make somebody's life easier and better. So we've created this document, and this is just a screenshot. If they come in here for ELA, they pick any standard they want, and then all of a sudden it goes, it connects them to number one, the CTE pathway that's in our district. Number two, the digital portfolio connection, which is your tech standards. Number three, the portrait of a graduate competency. Number four, the workforce ethics. How many of y'all been doing that one? Been incorporating that one? Yeah. Let's just be honest. They come out a couple years ago. That's a state mandated thing. You got to get them in there. How do you do it? So what this document is supposed to do is when a teacher pulls up their standard, they now have talking points for their students to where they can come in here and say, hey guys, listen, we're covering this today. And as they go through the lesson, do you know in our district, this could be part of our teaching and learning pathway. You know, if you wanted to be a teacher, you can take what we're learning today and you can put it in to practice. You can be certified, you can go through and you can learn, and we can get you right into being a teacher when you get out and you get your degree. So that whole process is what we're looking, here, innovative designer. Now they can say, hey, if I use this lesson, I can put it in my portfolio as evidence. Same thing as it goes across. I see where this is in my real world setting. And then I can make the connection for workforce. We are still developing this. It's been a painstaking labor of love, I guess is the easiest way to say it, because everything had to be entered manually for this to work. And we did it all through Looker Studio on the front side. So not only do we want our teachers and administrators to say, yes, this works, we got it in there, then we want our business and community members to be invested too. They have to come in and say, this is what I'm looking for in a student. This is what I want your students to come out with, and I want them to be able to do so I can have great employees. And we have to take that into consideration. And listen, we got to start talking to parents. We got to start telling them about their own kids, because sometimes parents work all day long, and when they get home, they want to cook supper, love on their kids, and just keep peace sometimes. But sometimes we got to say, hey, Johnny is rocking out coding. And the parents can say, what's coding? Hey, guess what? You get a great teaching moment. And you get to explain to them, Johnny can make 6 figures if he really does this. Now the team is put together and we've got to have everybody there. Guys, listen, I beg you, go back and revamp your IOP. Pick out the components that you need. Those programs are great. They have a lot of stuff. Hit the high points. Hit the ones that you're going to use the data, because our teachers are starting to use their learning style data to teach them better in the classroom. Now we're starting to use that data. Other things to ponder. The last person down here is our students. What is my portrait? I love, these are just Webster's definitions. And I love this first one. It's a pictorial representation of the person. Now, that girl's my daughter, so I can use her picture. Okay. So that's my 18-year-old. Sometimes it's a sculpted figure. How many times are kids being molded and and developed into what we feel like they can do? And then it's a graphic portrayal of words in words. But the cool part about this is they are their own artist. If we truly believe that we need to give them voice and choice, we got to mean it. We got to mean it, and we got to let them build who they are and what they want to be. And we have to show them how to get there. A person who creates art using conscious skill, creative imagination. Man, sometimes we put a rock on their head and we will not let them be creative. Because why? This is my classroom and we're going to do it my way. I did that. I messed up a lot of kids. And I regret it. Sometimes it took me 20 years to figure out. It took me 20 years to figure out how to teach. And when I did, I had a group of kids that took us everywhere we wanted to go. Skilled performer, a person who is very good at something. Man, we got to value our kids. They're special. We got to let them know it. All right, just a few minutes left. We want to engage them. This is our 3 power words we use in our district. We want to engage them. We want to empower them, to equip them. Our engagement is what's happening in the classroom. We've got to get them to a point to where they've got enough skill set that they are empowered to do the things they want to do and to be showcased like in their digital portfolio. Because once we do those 2 things, we've equipped them to be successful in life and whatever they want to do. Now, if you notice, our pictures are getting a little bit more clearer here from our granny wall that we started at the beginning. So is our story really worth 1,000 words? I'm going to let you answer this question on this next slide. If you look at this is my youngest son, Jake, and he's in preschool. Jake is something to behold. And every time I see this picture, it reminds me of his story. We've got to get to the point where we're seeing kids and we're seeing their stories, not because they misbehaved, not because they got a 36, but we've got to see their story because their stories are much more important than a grade. Yes, it's worth it. Students tend to share abilities and skills they may have once kept hidden. Tell you the story really fast. So the first year we did this, we had a student at our alternative school. He would not talk to anybody. He came to school every day. He put his headphones in and would not hardly communicate to anyone. Some people wasn't even sure if he could talk. He'd still do his work, turn in. He started doing his digital portfolio. There was a teacher that was helping him work through this process. And at the end of it, she called me. She goes, Mike, I got to show you something. So she sent it. He stood up in front of a camera and defended his portfolio. And I cried like a big old blubbering whale right there. And I'm like, and she made a comment and she goes, I had no idea about his story. And he told the story. And she said, I missed it. I missed it. Oh, I hit the wrong button. There we go. Students and families see educational growth from year to year. Students see areas they need to improve on. Students start seeing meaning and value. Students and families have a way to share their story. My Jake is nonverbal right now. So his story sometimes has to be told in pictures. But what an awesome way to do that through his educational career, to show all the cool things that he's learning and doing and sharing. Don't take the portrait of a graduate or however you showcase your kids for granted. Make it happen. Make it happen. Because Look at these pictures. Do you think these pictures are worth 1,000 words? Some of these people have been around so long, they probably got like billions of words, right? Some of them are sitting in front of you. Anybody want to take a guess on this one? How about our history president? You may want to take a gander at the middle one. Our state lead in DLC. How about this one on the end that's got hair under that cap? Our state STOP lead. Guys, I just want to end with this. Tell your story so the students can tell theirs. My dad always told me, he said, listen, remember who you are when you leave this house. We should do the same thing with our kids when they leave our districts. Remember who you are. Because we want people out there to see that's a Floyd County student. That's a Bullitt County student. That's a Boone County student. That's a Pikeville Independent student. And if we don't have that mindset, we're back to the 10, 80, 10. And we're letting more of them fall through the cracks. Any questions? I'm 2 minutes over. Thank you all so much. See you guys. We're here. So if you see us throughout, please let us know.